Hey guys, hope you're well and staying safe. Welcome to another session of computer architecture. And in today's session, we'll be looking at the 2016 past exam paper. I think we've already looked at the first question in our live online sessions. And just to reiterate, remember the paper can come twofold. Naturally, had you been sitting down for these, and as I had initially mentioned in our previous session, you got 120 marks for a 2 hour paper and then 180 for a 3 hour paper as far as mark allocation there is concerned. So you've got, I think it's a 6 mark, also rather six um, question paper. And we've already looked at question one, which was the multiple choice. We had a discussion, like I said before. And then obviously, if you've looked through the paper, question two and three is content we've already looked at. I think what I'm going to be focusing on as far as today's session is concerned will be question number four and part and parcel of question number five. Obviously, question number six, which is a 20-mark question, content that we've looked at in our recent sessions. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue for you. But like I've mentioned before, try and attempt, and then should you need me to give you a heads up in terms of what's happening, pop me a mail, and I can naturally grade your submission there. So if you look at the fourth question, 20-mark question, it's discussing Firewire and USB. Again, one of the sessions that I've uploaded. I think if you look at the YouTube channel, I think the videos that look at chapter number 11 there, we'll discuss USB and Firewire in detail. And as far as this particular question is concerned, you have been asked that you want to connect a printer, scanner, and an external DVD burner to your PC. Using two diagrams, illustrate how you'd connect devices using a hubbed connection and a daisy chain. So remember, we've already mentioned these architectures before. When you're looking at a hubbed platform, naturally you're looking at a centralized or a convergence of connections as far as your particular devices are concerned. Normally, when you look at USB deals with a distinctive hub that then provides connectivity to a multitude of devices as far as your particular machine or computer system there is concerned. On the other hand, when you look at Firewire, naturally with Firewire, you're now connecting devices in series or in a daisy-chained platform. So you're connecting devices one after the other. So I've incorporated, I think you will see the actual diagram that is there that shows the distinctive difference between a hubbed architecture and a daisy-chained platform. So as far as this particular question is concerned, you had 6 marks that were typically allocated just looking at the illustration of the distinctive differences between these two. So I didn't naturally ask for a definition, but just an illustration in terms of showing you understanding as far as differentiating between a hubbed configuration as well as a daisy-chained platform there. I think it's also important to note that when you look at the other differences between USB and Firewire, besides the actual speeds associated with connectivity, when you're looking at USB, naturally you're looking at a support of up to 127 devices. On the other hand, with Firewire, you're looking at 63 devices. And then when you look at cable length associated with these two distinctive architectures, Firewire as maximum of 4.5 meters, and USB will have 5-meter configurations there. All right, so that's that for question number 4.1. And then if you look at 4.2, again, one of the recent sessions that we had, chapter number 19, looking at display technologies. And naturally there, you're now comparing the refresh rate versus the, or against the contrast ratio as far as LCD resolution platforms there is concerned. I think if you're looking at it from a very basic perspective, remember when you're looking at a refresh rate, it's the same that you'd find with CRTs in terms of the actual measurement. But in essence, when you're looking at refresh rates, there's how often a screen can change or update completely. And then obviously, if you're looking at the contrast ratio, that's the difference between the darkest and the lightest spots that the monitor can distinctively display there. And normally you'll find that LCD deal with what they call a dynamic contrast ratio platform there. Obviously, if you need to look at added reading as far as that particular section there is concerned, page 812 in your textbooks. And again, like I mentioned before, one of the recent discussions that we had as far as our online sessions they are concerned, I think it's the same thing that you look at question number 4 as well. I mean, question number 4.3 rather, where this one is looking at printers. Remember, that's chapter number 27 in your prescribed textbook. And you've got an instance here where you've got ghost images and printouts are dirty. Normally, this is in line with laser printing. And as far as this particular setup is concerned, remember when you're looking at ghost images, normally this happens when the imaging drum is not fully discharged and is picking up toner from a previous image, as far as your particular print jobs are concerned. Or naturally, you could find that a previous image has used up so much toner that either the supply of the charged toner is insufficient, or ultimately the toner has not been adequately charged. That's the reason why you'd find ghost images as far as your particular printing there is concerned. And then when you look at the whole concept of actually the other way in which or you're looking at troubleshooting this now. So because I've just given you a reason why you'd have ghost images as far as your printing is concerned. Now, when you're looking at another distinctive reason, you are looking at a scenario where this can also be caused by a worn out cleaning blade that isn't removing the toner from the drum appropriately. So that's these are the reasons why these issues could be happening. And then naturally, as far as resolution is concerned, especially if you compare that to the whole concept of your dirty printouts, it's a question of making sure that the printer is naturally cleaned appropriately, just to avoid distinctive problems or issues there. And obviously, with dirty printouts, now if you're looking at it from a laser platform, if the fusing mechanism is dirty, it will obviously leave a light dusting of toner all over the paper. And normally this is particularly the back of the page. And again, like I said before, ways of resolving this or these particular issues would be to naturally get the printer appropriately cleaned there. So this is troubleshooting your printers. If you remember well, when we were discussing this particular chapter, I did mention that the troubleshooting part is a section that most of the past papers have typically looked at. So naturally, you do yourself a world of good just by making sure that you understand specifically the different troubleshooting issues that you'd experience across the different types of printers that are there. So your laser printer, your toner, your inkjet printers as typical arguments as far as components there are concerned. So that's question number 4 there for 20 marks. Honestly, pretty straightforward, but again, could be a bit tricky if you take certain content for granted there. So just make sure you incorporate content appropriately. And like I'd mentioned in our previous session, naturally try and explain these concepts in your own words to look at a scenario where you can try and totalize and maximize on the mark allocation there. Remember, when you're looking at it from a take-home assessment point of view, you are naturally given less marks for plugging content directly as it is from textbooks or from whatever literatures that you're using that have relevant information associated with your module content. And it's also naturally take cognizance and heed of that. Now, if you look at question number 5, another 20-mark question, split into two, 5.1 and 5.2. And then the first one is looking at the whole issue of the file systems. Now, we did discuss this when we were looking at chapter number 10 in our face-to-face sessions. And remember, we mentioned the fact that when you're looking at your file systems, ultimately, I think it's imperative to understand the fact that when you look at file systems, their main purpose is to arguably prepare the storage medium for use. So in order for you to actually begin to start using your storage platform, whether it's a hard drive, internal, external, it's a thumb drive, the list will go on and on. You want to make sure that you've laid a foundation for content to be actually stored as far as these particular components or devices are concerned. So naturally, you've got the file system. Normally, this is incorporated when you format your particular storage platform. The formatting process, while clearing content, is a byproduct of that particular process. The main thing is to lay a foundation, which is naturally incorporating a file system that you can use as far as specific platforms they are concerned. So when you look at this whole concept as far as these particular file systems would go, you've got two distinctive types of file systems that are there. FAT was the initial one that was incorporated, and then you also have what they now call the new technologies file system, which is the current file system that is typically appropriate as far as basic storage is concerned. Doesn't mean you won't encounter FAT, but now when you look at NTFS, it's got 6 major enhancements when you compare it to FAT, which is your file allocation table. You've got what they call the first one is file and folder security. You've got the second one, which is compression. You've got encryption, which is the third. Fourth is disk quotas, and then the fifth is redundancy. The last one would be cluster sizing, not necessarily in that order. So these enhancements are not typically present as far as your FAT is concerned. And remember, NTFS it typically uses an enhanced file allocation table called MFT. So in essence, when you look at those 6 distinctive advanced or major improvements, if you look at it from a different perspective, the question is asking here that this particular individual is looking at creating a folder, and as far as this particular folder is concerned, all the files are archived and disk space is saved. The second thing that they need to take into consideration is that the content of the folder is unreadable to unauthorized users. The disk space is limited to 70 gigs. And then lastly, full access is granted to her and administrators only. And then they state that explain why Sally should use the NTFS file system over others, explain how the NTFS structure fulfills all her folder requirements there. So like I mentioned before, FAT obviously an advancement there. And if you look at what they've mentioned, all the files are archived and the disk space is typically saved there. You're discussing the whole concept of compression, which is a feature obviously that is prevalent or that is there in NTFS as opposed to FAT. And then the other thing that you're also looking at is the second one, which is the content of the folder is unreadable to unauthorized users. That's file and folder security. And you can also even argue encryption as well, because remember, when you encrypt something, you're scrambling that particular, or you're scrambling data into a non-readable format. In order for you to read that format or to access that format, you need to decrypt, which is descrambling. And then naturally you need to have distinctive keys, both public and private. And then when you look at disk space limitations there, that's disk quotas. Remember, when you're looking at a quota, you're looking at limiting the amount of storage space that is used, because naturally, if you look at it from an account perspective, a computer system could have probably 5 odd accounts incorporated there. You've got one distinctive drive that is accessed by these multiple accounts. You want to make sure that there's either an equal sharing of storage space, or a specific account has more, another account has less. It all depends on what it is that you're looking at. Your disk quotas typically avail for that, in order for you to look at obviously making sure that there's a limit as far as particular storage there is concerned. And then the other one is full access is granted to her and administrators only. Again, file and folder security incorporated there as far as that there is concerned. So naturally, it's a question of listing these 6, stating obviously that NTFS is a lot better than FAT because of these enhancements, and then point out the ones that are relevant in accordance to the 4 bullet points that they've incorporated there. So I think that one is sorted. Not too much of a train smash in terms of understanding content there. Again, revisit chapter number 10 associated with your module content. It looks at NTFS as well as FAT file structure in accordance to module content. Question 5.2 now looks at a specific individual that has obviously wants to watch Blu-ray disc movies there. I think this looks at chapter 11 as far as your prescribed textbook there is concerned, and naturally she's using a Windows 7 machine that's manufactured in the States, and obviously has got a list of hardware specifications that are incorporated there. So the processor, multi-core processor, system memory 1 gig, and you've got your HDCP compliant video card and drivers there. Remember, HDCP is your high bandwidth digital content protection, and that typically is a form of digital copy protection developed by Intel to typically prevent copying of digital audio and video content, obviously as it traverses across different connections there. So in this particular instance, this particular individual obviously is having issues with the high definition as far as these particular Blu-ray discs there is concerned. So if you look at the specs of this Windows 7 machine, obviously the 1 gig is not sufficient. There's not enough RAM. Your minimum spec there for that type of machine is 2 gigs of RAM. That's one issue identified and arguably indicated for resolution. And then if you're looking at I think the other thing as well is that the regions. So this particular machine has been configured for the States, and the disk that this particular individual is obviously trying to view has been configured for a different region. So if the region code has not been or the change has not been exceeded, because remember you can change your specific region using your device manager platforms there. If the change has not been exceeded in terms of the limit, then you need to change to the region code on the actual Blu-ray disc. In this particular instance, you need to change it to B to match the geographic region location. Obviously, this typically isn't necessary if the actual disc has been sold or shipped or distributed region free. But obviously, this is another indication that or it's another indication of why this particular individual is not capable of was not able to view content there. So that's that as far as 5.2 is concerned. Like I said before, I think these are the only or these are the questions that I deemed that needed some kind of discussion. The other ones we've already looked at before. And if you look at I think question 6, you're looking at internet. It's another 20-mark question. You're looking at the whole issue of your internet application protocols. You're looking at describing the 4-step process associated with disassembly as far as your portable PCs they are concerned, and then how you'd upgrade RAM on that portable PC or within portable PC platforms, laser printer issues again. And then the last one is looking at malware. So remember, with malware, chapter number 28, I've already uploaded, I think, a 3-part a series there as far as that particular chapter is concerned. So chapter 28, have a quick look at it again on the YouTube channel. And like I said before, it describes or talks about content, obviously, that is relevant as far as the whole setup there is concerned. So not too much of an involving paper, really. But like I said before, if you need me compare with what you've managed to come up with as far as answers are concerned, and obviously if you need me to grade, pop me a mail, and then I can grade your submissions accordingly, and then obviously discuss anything that is relevant as far as those particular submissions there are concerned. But otherwise, that is that. I think we'll look at the 2015 and 18 as well as 19 question papers, if I'm not mistaken. And then if there are any distinctive issues, obviously we can discuss those accordingly. But otherwise, that is that as far as this particular session there is concerned, guys. Please stay safe, keep smiling, and be of good spirits. Cheers.